Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to be doing a recording today. This is just a personal piece, just doing some practice, and I wanted to mix it up. I've been doing a little more happy-go-lucky stuff lately, and I actually usually don't do that sort of stuff. So I thought it'd be nice to just do something a little bit more, I guess, traditional for me. But anyway, so this is sort of the sketch phase now. I'm sketching in color, which is a little bit strange for me. I usually do black and white, but I don't know what it is. There's just something about working in color. I like it better. I feel like the coloring process just adds a lot of time, and it never really looks the way I want it to look in the end. I have to kind of redo the piece as I'm working. So I figured if I just start with color to begin with, maybe it would help. And I think it did. I think this piece came out pretty nice, or pretty nicely. Alright, so we're just doing some underlighting here. We're going to have some really big, dark, black, glassy eyes. Kind of creepy. And I wanted the expression to be, so I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I essentially didn't want it to be an angry face. I wanted it to sort of be an emotionless face that was screaming or yelling or had its mouth wide open. Because I think that's a little bit more disturbing than an angry face. An angry face, you can sort of understand the emotion, but if there's no emotion there, it's a little bit creepier. So here I am just building out some shapes. I need to practice with my faces. This took a little bit longer than I would have hoped. I'm a little bit rusty because I've been doing some non-humanoid stuff for a bit now, and my human facial anatomy is a little bit off. Just adding some shadows here. And I should be fixing this in a second. Obviously, the jaw is a little bit too distended. That's not physically possible. So here we go. All right, fixed the jawline. Sketched in a neck really quickly. Very disturbing. Pinprick eyes. Needle teeth. Now this would have been fine at this point to leave it if I was doing a very loose concept, but I wanted to kind of see where I could take it, so I kept going. And I'm just using some multiply layers, I believe. Yep, multiply layers to add some tone to the skin, some flesh tone, and some veins. Pretty much the areas where the vasculature can show through. And a little bit more underlighting. I just actually changed the color scheme from a red underlight to a blue underlight. Just because I feel like red underlighting gets done a lot of lava scenes and hell scenes, people use red underlighting. Blue underlighting is a little bit less common. Alright, so I'm defining some of the anatomy of the eye. And I decided rather than just have these pits of darkness to actually have them be protruding glass-like eyes that were just completely dark with this pinprick inside. Here I'm just building up some of the shadows to define the light source a little bit better. And I tried using the liquify tool here to just fix some of the anatomy, but I'm not actually sure how much of that I kept. Here's where the mouth actually gets a little bit messed up. So I inadvertently removed the lips a little bit, which is disturbing, but it makes it look more like the face is sort of tucking in their lip rather than not having lips. It looks kind of goofy. Here we go, I'm fixing the nose. The nose is a little bit too upturned for me. And I'm just adding some effects to the eyes. I haven't really settled upon a look yet. I'm sort, as I mentioned, I'm leaning towards the glassy black look, but I haven't really settled on anything at this moment. Alright, so I decided to redefine the light source because the nose is getting lost against the rear cheek. So I had the light source coming from the top right rather than the top left. Because of that, I have to change the highlight patterns. So gotta paint out those little highlights and move them to the other side. Doing a little bit of rim lighting, just very subtle, nothing too strong. Added a hint of a tongue there. Probably just got a little bit of the duck lips going on, so that'll get fixed. A little more rim lighting and reflections from the underlight, which has yet to be painted in. It's kind of strange how there's blue underlighting, but there's no blue light source, so I'll remedy that. Right now I'm doing the liquefy a little bit. I always have trouble with the eyes and the bridge of the nose. That's probably the thing I have the most difficulty with in the face. That and the underside of the nose. Those teeth came out pretty well, actually. I was happy with that. They were pretty quick. And here I try to fix the facial structure a little bit, but the problem was it ended up making her look too, or I shouldn't say her because I'm not sure if there's a gender assigned to this character, but too angry. Strong expressions are easier to paint than no expression sometimes. So this is a sort of fun thing I did. So rather than just have a smooth, healthy-looking nose, yeah, I cheated right there. I copied and pasted the eye rather than paint. The rear eye was too small and it just didn't look right, so I copied and pasted it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I did a little divot in the nose where the bone actually stops to make the cartilage look like it was a little bit more withered and removed from the face, a little bit of decay. And here I am just fixing some of the facial shadows. And I started adding, I don't know why I started doing it, but I really like the look. I started adding these little kind of like ribs or rims to areas of the face to make it look more gaunt. And it just, I don't know, it really worked for me. I really like the way they came out. So I'm just highlighting some areas around the face right now, polishing the light sources a little bit better, adding the orbits of the skull are kind of visible, and then here I'm adding some of the pillowing or the musculature around the eye, which lets it move around. It makes it look more like a human face. And just define the eyes. The eyes are really popping out of the sockets now. They're sort of these black glassy orbs. Just gotta make sure they're round. They were a little bit distorted. And here's where it got really creepy. Is I had these teeny little pupils. And I don't know why, but it just amplified the creepiness by a lot. It's got I don't know why. It makes it a lot more disturbing. Here I tried to do a tongue. And I just sort of sketched out to see how it looked, but I didn't like it, so I got rid of it. And here I'm refining the tongue that was already there. And I realized that the perspective was off a little bit on the skull, so I started adding some perspective lines to help identify where the actual median of the skull was, or the middle point. And I actually liked it so much that I ended up making it a little bit of a crest, which is not normally found in people, but looks a little bit like a vein or a little ridge along the skull. And I'm just defining the outline of the skull. And I brought the teeth in. I didn't a little bit too buck teeth before. And here I'm adding an ear. This is actually, I was very proud of myself when I had the ear. It was really fast to add, and usually ears can be a little bit troubling. But yeah, this was a cool ear to do. So I've been doing a lot of observation of anatomy lately, and I noticed that ears in particular have the subsurface scattering along the ridge and the cartilage at the top of the ear, which is known as the pinna, or any part of the outer ear is known as the pinna. But anyway, the ridge along the top will actually be a little bit darker and then have a brighter highlight because the way the light comes in and then bounces back out of the skin, which is subsurface scattering. So here I'm fixing the teeth, and I usually like to be anatomically accurate, but there are way too many teeth in this mouth. Alright, helping to consolidate the light source. It was a little bit off, but it seems to be okay now. Yeah, working on the mouth a little bit. Mouths can be tough, especially the lips. And it's tough when you want to do it from imagination as well, because lips look very different on different people. So anyway, so just extending the teeth, and the teeth actually were really easy to extend. All I did was I just sampled the color with the eyedropper, extended it, and then just reapplied the light source, and it worked pretty well. All right, so I moved the tongue for a while. I didn't like it. Here I tried kind of shortening the teeth to be more normal looking, but didn't love it, so I took it out. And here I'm adding some more underlighting, especially on the areas that would have high spec or high specular highlights. And I'm just adding some reflections from the eyes, because they're so intense they would be actually reflecting on some of the skin. And here I am adding the neck. Now necks and shoulders I have a lot of difficulty with, as you'll see coming up. It's a pretty complex area of the body, especially at different angles. I mean, it's not so bad to draw it straight on or whatever, but when there's actually torque or torsion involved in the torso, it can get very complex. There's a lot of pieces that are moving together and affecting each other. What I'm doing right now is I just really quickly add some texture using my hairbrush, or a version of my hairbrush. And here I'm defining some of the musculature on the neck. And there's the windpipe. And here's the start of the shoulder. There's the clavicle coming down off the shoulder. And so that's a very basic shoulder. It's actually not completely anatomically accurate, but that gets fixed. So here I'm trying to define the musculature on the shoulder a little bit, because it wouldn't be that smooth in someone who's like this diseased or whatever. It's just there's a lot of dissonance if it looks normal. So because you can't have a freaky, well, I mean you can have a freaky face in a normal body, but I wanted to have a little bit of continuity. Anyway, here I'm defining the trapezius, which is that muscle that connects from the shoulders along the back to the neck. And you can see a little bit of the deltoid in the shoulder blade. It's sort of, or along the ball of the shoulder joint. And I'm defining that a little bit here. And defining the area around the base of the neck where it connects to the clavicle and the sternum. And now I'm just adding some highlights, a little bit of speck highlights. When I say speck, I mean specular highlights. Those are just like little shiny spots, essentially. If you have a very diffuse specular highlight, it'll be kind of a more even, smooth highlight versus a high spec highlight, which is just like a pinpoint. So some example of a diffuse, things that have diffuse highlights are like generally, matte surfaces, like plastic that's not highly polished. Clothing is very diffuse. Something that has a very high spec highlight is like glass or wet surfaces or polished surfaces. Porcelain also can have a very high spec highlight. Alright, so I'm just messing with the contrast. Alright, I thought about doing a hand, but hands take a lot of time. Whoops. So someone got hungry. But I didn't actually keep the blood. I did like it now that I'm watching it again, but at the time it didn't feel right. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding actually where the underlighting and rim lighting is coming from, which is a blue light source below. And that's my very, very quick light source that I added there. And here I'm just kind of emaciating the flesh a little bit. I'm making the definition of the skin around the muscle to be a little bit more intense. There shouldn't be a lot of body fat on someone who's this sort of gaunt. And at one point right there, I was trying to decide if I should just hide some of the details I didn't like with some gradients, but I decided to go back and fix it up, do it right. Oh, and in terms of highlights, so human skin actually is pretty diffuse, but if it's oily or waxy, the specular highlights become more intense. So still adding more highlights. Here I'm defining a rim light. Flipping around, making sure that the composition's okay. And it wasn't. The nose and the mouth were too small. See? All better. Here I'm adding a little more, some more veins. Quite a disturbing face. Alright, so I started the idea that there should be coming out of the mouth if the mouth's open like this, so I started just kind of drippy black liquid, ichor. And it did the trick. It was kind of disturbing. Here, so I thought I was done at this point. I know, so ballsy of me. But I decided to keep adding details, and normally I just add my signature at the bottom, but I wanted to do something a little bit different this time, so I actually applied my signature to the flesh as if it had been excised, like cut out surgically, which is a lovely image. And what I'm doing now is I'm adding some little highlights and shadow to make it look a little bit more 3D, a little more pronounced. And actually, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the painting, is how this area came out. I think it came out really well. It looks really realistic. And the purple blood is a little bit weird, but this is not obviously a human, or not any normal human. And I add some of that same tint to the ichor coming out of the mouth. Now, I tried adding a halo here, but it just looked funny. I don't know why. It made him look really, really bald for some odd reason. And I mean, he's obviously bald already, but yeah, I didn't like it. Also, you'll notice it's kind of funny. At the beginning, the creature looked a lot more feminine, and now it looks more masculine as we go on. I think it's because of the muscle definition and the throat, but I don't know. Also, the face is a little more angular, not as soft as it was before. Anyway, so just to sort of cover what I just did while I was talking, I added hairs to the back of the neck. I've added some lens flare to the eyes. I thought about adding an iron collar, like a blackened iron collar at one point, and having these spikes that were digging into the neck, but I ended up not doing it. But I did add some veins. I like the kind of diseased look of the veins that are popping through the skin. These varicose veins. And what I'm doing now is I'm adding a little bit of a yellow tint to the forehead area, just to show that the skull is actually a little bit visible. There are 3 bands of colors that go across the face. The top band is yellow, which is around the forehead. Then there's generally kind of a purplish band, that's the eyes. And the last band is a blue, that's the jaw. And it's in women too. It's more visible in men when they have stubble or facial hair, but it's also in women. And of course the nose and the ears should be reddish because that's where the blood is closest to the skin. What I'm doing now is I'm adding some buboes, or some big pussy growths on the skin. And they look really basic right now because they're not done. So they're just sort of floating there. Here I'm adding the specular highlight. Lovely. And a little bit of a bounce light. Well, not a bounce. It's a little bit more, it's a subsurface scattering technically. It's the light coming through and being trapped in the liquid inside. What I'm doing now is I'm using a multiply layer to tie these buboes, or bubi, I guess. Whatever. These, let's call them zits for now. these giant zits into the skin by using multiply layers and making it sort of look like he has a wine mark or some sort of very nasty growth, some rashing on the skin. And it's lovely. I love this. This definitely helps break up the skin. And compositionally, it's good too. And what's really sweet about these is, since you know that they're going to be approximately round, you can use them to add perspective onto things. You'll see that when I get to the shoulder and back area around the neck too. So the more, pretty much they have their own perspective to them, which is good. And here we go. See, they're almost flat. They're almost flat against the back because they're angled away from the viewer. And that's good. It adds a sense of realism, a sense of depth, a sense of geometry. All right, so I did one pass with the multiply. Now I'm going back with a second pass because it needs more work. And this is a more reddish or pinkish multiply color rather than the purple I was using before. And I started to do these ripples of filth around them. Some very angry blisters. If you have any blisters on your body that look like this, I suggest you seek immediate medical attention. Anyway, all silliness aside, still adding this discoloration. And now I went back and I did more discoloring. These are actually going to be whiteheads. So lovely, I know. Just little red swollen areas. And once I'm done adding them, the really gross part starts. Oh, I guess it's pretty gross already. Who am I kidding? Ooh, he's even got him on the ear. Ugh. Here we go, adding some whiteheads. Now that's gross. I don't even care. The dermatologist's worst nightmare. Oh man, that's nasty. Okay, so I thought that the areas around the pustules weren't really defined well enough, so I went back in here and I'm just kind of adding these highlights to make it look like the skin is sort of mountaining around them, so they have their own little highlights. And then here I'm adding shadows because they're actually so pronounced off the skin that they have their own shadows. And now I'm adding a light that's being filtered through the goo inside of the zits, or the pustules, onto the skin, which is really cool, but really gross. It's kind of like that effect that stained glass windows have, or a glass of water on your countertop or something, except really disgusting. Here I decided to actually make the nose even more disgusting after I add some more speck highlights. Hold on. Getting ahead of myself. Okay, here I go. So I'm defining the nose a little bit, and I'm making it really nasty. The skin is, almost peeled back a little bit. And hey, let's add some gangrenous. Oh, these were great. So I decided it wasn't enough just to have pustules. I actually wanted things like little tadpoles or something growing inside them, gestating inside the face. So that's what those are. And some little more vein going on, defining the little guys inside the head. And I thought that the pustules were actually a little bit too normal looking, so too regular. They're all just sort of round and big. So I decided to make a couple little ones and break up their outlines to make them seem a little bit more random. And we're adding some more subtle whiteheads. Oof, brutal. Oh, I decided to add a tongue again. I get really fickle with things like that, especially tongues. Tongues are awkward because they add so much more expression. Like, you instantly know what the mouth is doing when you add a tongue. Oh, so I was actually, instead of doing the collar, I was going to add chains, but I just didn't like the way they looked, so, but that didn't happen either. All right, I decided to make the bounce light a little bit stronger, a little bit better defined. And look, it's adding little bounce lights to the pustules too. And I'm hinting that there's other textures here, well, as I add these little dots to the shadowed area. And I'm picking out some more of the hairs. And adding more rim lights and bounce lights to the front of the face. Yuck. Here I'm breaking up the outlines more, just adding little indeterminate details and pustules and raised skin areas. Oh, it's nasty. Looks like a really, really bad infection or poison ivy or something. Oof. So now I'm picking out the area behind the ichor that's dripping out of the mouth because I thought it was sort of getting lost. And this is really funny. I didn't realize this until I rewatched it, but I made this really nice color balance layer, and then I forgot to turn it back on. What I'm doing here is I broke up the outline of the shoulder because I decided I wanted it to be backlit. I didn't want it to be in the foreground anymore, or forelit, so that's what I was just doing here. Now, I know people are going to say this is a zombie, but it's not really a zombie. Alright, and I decided to add some random geometry here, sort of these nebulous shapes. Because the background was really, really boring. And they add some sort of, looks like there's a meaning to them. There's, these geometric shapes, these maddening forms. And they were fun to do. They're really easy. They're just masking with some brush strokes and a soft eraser. They're really not that hard to do. Now I decided to take out one of those because it made it look like he was having an epiphany. So, all right. So then I did some inverse shapes because the other ones were masked out shapes, and then the area around them was painted. This is the opposite. These are the shapes are painted, and then some areas are erased out from within. And here I'm customizing a brush for this purpose. Gotta tone them down a little bit. They look a little bit 80s. Adding some more random geometry. And you're gonna realize, as I did in a little bit, that there's a little bit too much geometry. So I had to tone it down and take out some of them. It does look pretty maddening, though. I'd go crazy too if I lived somewhere that looked like this. Here I'm trying to add a little bit of glow to the scalp, but I didn't end up using it, or at least I toned it down quite a bit. Yay, my favorite brush, the shrapnel brush. And then I decided to re-add the halo. So what I do is I do a inverse gradient, erase out a bunch, pose it, get rid of any overlaps I don't like with a mask. I wanted to make it kind of diabolical looking, so I chose red. And then I go in and, I think I'm using a color dodge here, yeah. Just making it look kind of ethereal, but, I don't know, wicked at the same time. And then a little bit of reflection on the skin from it, because it's glowing. And just adding a little bit more to it. And buffing out the eyes to make them a little bit more intense. A little more shrapnel brush, kind of the idea is that it's picking out there's these intense lights that are picking out kind of floating debris near them, coloring them. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. This was actually really fun. It was a good departure from what I normally do, or at least have been doing as of late, which are, well, last thing I did was a picture of my dog as Cupid, and then before that I did a cat who was Doctor Who. So, yeah, I thought it was time for something a little bit darker. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, there'll be more videos to come soon. If you have any questions about the process, please feel free to comment. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Overall, this piece took, I think, about just under 6 hours. I did a lot of it last night and finished it this morning. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.